to. I want to get really amped up on this game, right? Whether I don't want to name games right now, but yeah.
Let's talk about games. Let's go into games a little bit.
Let's see if we get one to slip.
Yeah.
Mikey's got a.
Let me finish off that really quick. Actually, one last statement there too. Online play is important for longevity of a game too. I think Kevgret just said it.
That's true.
Or somebody just said it. I don't know.
Mr. Miami Cuddles has a good thing. He says online will bring new life to the games we've played.
Yeah,
but that's true. You know, right? I mean, I can't wait to play some of the games I already have.
Yeah, and it adds
play them and beat Jeff Rainwater at every one of them.
Like a beat 'em up, especially like Double Dragon, say, right? Like it's cool when you get through it. That's great when you first beat it, and then it kind of gets a little bit boring after a little while, right? But then you can jump in again. Like now you got friends to play with and stuff like that too. Now there's a whole nother monster too. Now we can do different competitions for speed runs and things like that potentially.
Oh,
it has a whole new thing to it, right? A whole new feel to the game that was kind of stale to you, right? It brings a whole new life to it. So that's a perfect way to put it.
So could you give us a wink on Double Dragon if that's going to be one of the first ones to come out online? Did we get a wink?
Double Dragon is
not going to wink.
We'll see. Definitely. Do you want Double Dragon online? Is that what you guys want?
We want Double Dragon online. We want Double Dragon. We want to see the wink, Michael. We want to see the wink.
I want Battle Rockets online.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about Battle Rockets.
Okay,
why did we get Battle Rockets over some of these other games? Because there's a whole. Hold on.
Why did we get Battle Rockets over Gunbird 2? Gunbird 2 was in the original release list.
It's just development time. So Gunbird 2 is still a game that's in development. It hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't. We haven't lost that license or anything, I should say. Right. So yes, Gunbird 2 is still in development too. Some of these games are very specific games too, right? Think of the Psycho games actually in particular. We're the only ones who have the Psycho games, right? You notice you don't really see the Psycho games anywhere else. Gunbird 2, Dragon Blaze and stuff is another game that we've announced is still in the works as well too. Yep.
Are you saying those are
a spreadsheet, Michael?
Wait, there's a list.
So okay, this is a spreadsheet I started a long time ago. Do you remember when we had a Kickstarter? There was a lot of games, and some of these games were from the Kickstarter that haven't been released yet. And I wanted to ask you about them because I don't know if is there a specific like roadblock that's like for some of these that it's just holding up a whole bunch of them because there's about 50 games here.
Yeah, there's some bangers on that list.
I know there's some bangers on the list.
Truxton 2, Zero Gunner. What's the story in some of these?
Number 2.
Look, I didn't want to leak anything tonight.
I'm not asking you to leak anything. If you can talk it generally speaking, is there any particular? I mean, if you want to leak something, don't let me hold you back.
I love that you talked about Truxton right there, actually, too. By the way, fans in the audience right now, too, I've not mentioned any of these games to them tonight, which is kind of funny that they said Truxton because Truxton will be released very soon after a system update's available. So stay tuned on an upcoming system update, and then pretty close to following that,
exclusive
Truxton. So yes, Truxton's a classic. If you haven't played, it's a classic shooter.
Truxton's coming tomorrow. Shh.
Truxton's coming very soon, but stay tuned for a system update too.
There's a game on there I want to specifically ask you about Pilot Kids. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was an old Sega Model 2 game, correct?
Yeah, so that and oh my gosh, there's 2 other games too that are Sega Naomi titles as well that are in there.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Zero Gunner, was that one of them?
Zero Gunner 1 and 2. That's right. Yep.
What about? Have we heard anything about Residual?
So if we
remember that getting announced a long time ago.
I don't think that's ever been on my list, honestly, but I gotta ask.
The Omega Race, is that the arcade version or is that like the ColecoVision version?
That's Omega Race, I believe, is Coleco. Yep.
Okay. All these ones that have a date next to them are the ColecoVision ones.
Oh, okay.
Like Hellfire.
Yep,
Evolution Soccer. What happened to that one?
All those games from the original list are still currently being worked on. So yes, they have not gone anywhere. They are still fully in the works. I promise you that.
The Fallen Angels is a cool looking game.
Daraku Tenshi. Yes. So Daraku Tenshi is a fun one. If you look up the history on Daraku Tenshi, you should look up the history on Daraku Tenshi and see who it's made by, who the developers were, and what it was supposed to become. So I love that game.
I got homework. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, some of the stuff Nico goes
through. Miami Cuddles out for Sega 18-wheeler. So I'm just going to put it out there. He really likes 18-wheeler. That would be his favorite.
How about all these Strikers 1945 sequels? What's the holdup on those?
So every game, it has a different story, right? So I can't speak on what the issue is necessarily on them too. I know some of them. Others I don't even know, honestly, off the top of my head. So, but they are all being looked into pretty much all the time.
There's
honestly.
some bangers on this list. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I just wanted to kind of point out to everybody.
You guys got me to announce it. You guys got me to early announce the release of Truxton, but yeah.
The thing is, yeah, I mean, we are just curious on what's being worked on. That's all, and that's normal. That's just curiosity.
Yes, games don't fall by the wayside for us. We are still looking into all of them. Again, we are a small development team too. So, and it really does depend on the game too. Different games have different issues that might go on that we have to fix. So they're ready when they're ready. Honestly,
this question to me was interesting from Brooklyn Menace. He says, "I always wonder why developers take such a long time to prove games for the iiRcade when they have to be aware people are playing them through other ways and they make no money."
So sure. I mean, arcade games, we develop in-house ourselves. We have to do that. So we license the games through them, but they don't give us the files and things like that. Usually we have to do a lot of those things ourselves. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. We do all that stuff in-house for specifically arcade games, right? Yeah. However, for modern games, that's up to the developer themselves too. Those are out of house. So
I will say too that, like, I don't mind buying the even though you have nefarious ways to play many of these games. I've played them enough that, like, I want to have a really well emulated, optimized experience. And I just want to continue with iiRcade.
Absolutely.
Just make them good. Keep doing what you're doing, because so far you've really impressed me as a huge fan of Real Arcade. How good your ports are of arcade.
Yeah, games. I mean, and we've said it before too. We literally do go to arcades sometimes and play these games before they're released to know if they feel proper or not. Too, like Double Dragon. We played to death in the arcade before it released to know that slowdown and how it feels and things.
Slowdown is accurate. I'll vouch for that 100%. And you got a nice hello from the Rexer show.
Rexer can talk to you about Double Dragon too when he played it on our machines, and he was like, "Is that slowdown right?" And then I think he went back home that night and played his actual Double Dragon and came back the next day. He's like, "That seems about right." I was like, "Cool."
I think it's funny that you tricked Rexer into thinking that the new sound was already implemented. Right? Like, because wasn't it not the JBL wasn't even working?
It wasn't at CES. No, it wasn't implemented in the same. Yeah.
But the sound is already so good that nobody even noticed.
The sound is great. JBL just makes it that much better. So.
Yeah. So Mikey has a really cool question about some specs on games. Like, go ahead, Mikey.
Because you were talking about you got the Model 2 game coming and Pilot Kids, and then you got some Naomi stuff in the works as well. So I'm gonna give you some specs here, and you tell me if you think the iiRcade can run it. Operating system is Windows XP, 1 GB of RAM, GeForce 950 GT, graphics card, 5 GB available storage.
So you can look up our specs online, right? They are right there on iiRcade.com. When you click on the devices, you can actually see the full printout of what's there.
Well, so just off the top of your head, do you think they could play this?
I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm looking over my camera right now to see my screen.
Can you read it?
Yeah. 5 GB storage space. Yeah, I mean, so we're a 1.8 gigahertz processor right at the gate, and then we're 4 GB of dedicated VRAM for games, and then our GPU. I have to look into again too. It's been a bit since I've looked at it, so this would be a close spec game for us for sure. I think is what it looks like, especially when you're pushing 4 GB of RAM on an actual PC. It's pretty close, I would say. But I mean, again, it all depends. Every game is optimized differently or optimized poorly, honestly, too. You've seen games like Dead Effect 2 running on our system,
right? Just
fine. Whenever there's other games that we've had on our system before too that run a little bit poorer, and you're like, why is this happening? Like, why is this 2D game running worse than a game like that, right? So that occurs.
Well, I'm just gonna let everyone know that was the specs for King of Fighters 13.
Makes sense.
And I looked up King of Fighters 15, and the one big thing that I saw in it was that it would just be a memory hog.
Like how big can a game be? Like how much storage space would be the max that iiRcade game would go?
64 for the small.
Like would you be willing to get a 64 gigabyte game? That's kind of
really about 48. About 48, 50. You're probably pushing it there.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't have any games that are that big. Clearly, I think our biggest is almost 2 gigs. Is really it. at this point.
So King of Fighters 15 probably not going to happen because it's a big. That's what is about 60 gigs, right?
Anything's possible.
I mean,
right?
it's yeah.
But he did. But you're on record as saying that there's a pretty good chance that the iiRcade could run King of Fighters 13, and that one is a very high quality game.
You can look up our specs online. They're on the website. They're not hidden, so you can.
There's a lot of people that go out there and say, "Oh, it can't handle this. It can't handle that." There you go. You just saw it right there.
Again, it really depends on the game and the developer as far as specs go. There's plenty of high-end titles that are releasing on just PC alone this year that are coming out. That sure, why not? We could run them. It just really depends on how optimized the game is for our system or just in general, honestly. So,
hey, I got a question for you, real quick. Now I know you can't really say, but is there any game that you would consider a AAA title coming out within the next 6 months?
Within the next 6 months?
Within the next 6 months, something that you consider a AAA title. I know you can't say what, but is something like that coming?
Loaded question.
We have some good banging games coming for sure. Yes.
Okay.
AAA depends on your consideration of AAA, right? So some might consider Dragon's Lair a AAA game. Some people don't consider Dragon's Lair a AAA game. I don't really know what the line is honestly anymore at this point. But yes, there will be some banging games coming within the next 6 months easily. Yes.
I had a question I wanted to ask. Who determines what licenses you chase after and which companies you contact? Because I get asked daily about Capcom.
Sure.
Who determines what licenses you're going to chase after and which companies you actually reach out to contact to try to get their licenses for iiRcade?
It's up to a couple of us, a handful of us, me included. No
pressure.
Again, it's hard to talk on licensing. Again, there's a lot of things that are always in the works that we just aren't allowed legally to speak on. So there's, and of course, like big companies and stuff like that too. We know what you want. We're not dumb. We know what you want. So don't worry about that. But
we write Shredder's Revenge in every chat, man.
Yeah, I don't know what Shredder's Revenge is.
I was waiting for one to click on, but we didn't get one yet.
It's a He-Man game. I'm not really sure.
I think so, actually. I think you can play as a rat in a sewer. I think is
something like that.
There's pizza involved, maybe. But yeah, so licensing is a hard thing to talk about, honestly. Just for a lot of
is it ever possible to get something like a collection of games, something like Capcom collection that would have all the Capcom games or a lot of the good ones?
It just depends who wants to work with us and things like that too. And it's not even necessarily who wants to work with us. It's do they have the capacity to work with us sometimes too. Sometimes you get a straight up no for one reason. Other times it's like we're a small indie developer. We just don't have the time right now to port to your system. And you're like, we just have to accept that we're not going to push them to, this or that happens. There's bigger companies too who, maybe they want something else entirely. So licenses, it's its own beast. And again, we can't talk about who we're talking to currently and things that are in the works or other plans and stuff like that, of course. But, just always keep in mind that we do know what games you guys want. We're not dumb. So we know. So
I have a follow-up.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question. Do you have any current licenses or games in development behind the scenes by license holders that we have not yet seen any games from on the iiRcade?
Sure, me.
Oh, so that sounds exclusive.
We'll see.
Besides you, any other ones?
I can't talk on who we're talking to.
I didn't say who. I just said yes or no question.
Poke.
I mean, we have more games. We have more games licenses that are in the works. Yes, of course. Of course, we have plenty of games coming this year too. Yes, there's plenty more games to come. So.
Well, we'll get killed if we don't ask you all the right questions.
There's plenty of games that you don't know about. Yes, sure. Yeah.
Another question we all get asked daily is Dreamcast games. And I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Yep. But just one more time, they want Dreamcast games. We all want them. We love Dreamcast games.
Power Stone 2 is my favorite game.
I hear you.
So.
I've never even heard of that, Michael. What is Power Sun? Now you got to tell me.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I don't know.
Are you hitting? We getting Power Stone 2? Are you hitting that?
Oh, Power Stone. Oh, yeah. I thought you said Power Sun. I'm
just saying that is one of my favorite games of all time to the Dreamcast. But yeah, so
I seen that. Yeah, that actually looks cool. That would be sick on the iiRcade. That'd be cool.
Sure. There's a lot of great games that we would love to have on our system,
Well, any other questions you guys have about games? I know he's just limited on what he can say on games, but sounds like there's some.
And this is so
awesome
true
stuff coming.
too. When you have a system where you add games to it, reality is it doesn't matter what amazing titles they add to iiRcade, because everyone is always going to want.
It's going to ask for more. Yep, it's 100% true.
That is a true statement. And I mean, right now with the 300 games, I have so many games that I turn on my machine and I love to play.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you for the games that you have released, because right now I feel like I have a lot to play on iiRcade.
Well, we get a lot of people that will say, like, make a comment like, "Oh, they don't have any good games," and then we say, "Well, have you tried this?
Have you
tried
tried
that?
What's that?"
And they go,
Have you tried?
I've never heard of it. It's like
I haven't heard of the games in the store.
Yeah, our goal is never to limit games, right? So we're always going to keep expanding the games library 100% of the time too. And again, our goal is never necessarily to make you need to buy a new machine either too. That's not our end goal, is to make you buy multiple of these machines too, right? It's cool when you do. Of course I want money. Why not? We're a business. I'd be dumb to say otherwise, right? But that's never like maliciously intended to like, you have to buy a new machine, like the next generation's here, you gotta buy it too. Cool. If you want to buy it, awesome. We put those new features in for you for that reason, right? But you don't have to, right? So we are sort of, it's the difference between us and other companies a lot of times is that we stake our claim as an arcade console for a reason, because you can buy one and you can just keep curating your library and adding the games that you want to it. You don't have to buy a new machine. So that's, like I said, you could pay $700-800 for a Dragon's Lair or a Double Dragon, or other games that we have to. Even a Gunbird machine, if you want Psycho, you might pay like $500 for a Psycho machine, maybe. Right? That'd be cool. I would pay that.
How the Bachelor says Shovel Knight, and I know you've played Shovel Knight in an iiRcade. You told me that.
Maybe. Shovel Knight's a great game. I love Shovel Knight.
So,
but yeah, so
that's
a
question.
Someday, maybe.
We getting any new games tomorrow?
That's a great question.
I'm just trying. It's not me. I'm just saying what the chat
I can
says.
tell you for sure what you're getting tomorrow. I hope, at least, barring testing tomorrow too, is a new update. So do stay tuned for a brand new system update dropping. Should be tomorrow. It should be tomorrow. If not, probably Monday, honestly, too. It depends on how testing goes, right? So we do have to test thoroughly through our software, and we have to test ourselves before we can release it to the public. We've been doing that for the past couple weeks. So that's what I do.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we got the iiRcadians merch store. If you want to take a little piece of the show with you, you can get it right here. Enjoy.